Somewhat similar to what I did last week, today I'm going to grade each and every single offensive player, mostly only the relevant ones, the ones worth noting. And then I'm going to grade the whole individual unit, like for example, like the whole O-line, the whole wide receiver group. And then I'm going to grade the whole offense as a whole and how they performed all year. Now let's start off with the quarterback position, starting off with Deshaun Watson. Watson, it was pretty obvious, man. He started off slow. In my opinion, he was clearly rusty. Like those first 2 games, he just wasn't himself. That Giants game, he just had a bad game, but I think at that point he was starting to kind of come back. That Colts game, that was a game where he finally, was fully back again. He knocked off the rust, but then, he punctured his lung and cracked his rib against the Cowboys. So he was playing like that for the next probably like 2-3 weeks. So you could clearly tell his game kind of took a hit due to the injury setbacks. 1, coming back from the ACL injury, and then 2, the injury he suffered versus the Cowboys. And, it's obvious Deshaun Watson, he was inconsistent for most of the season. Some games he'd do amazing, other games he'd do bad, and then there's some games where he also would play amazing for a certain stretch, and then he'd have like 1 or 2 bad drives, and then he'd come back and then start doing good again. And that's kind of how Deshaun was, and I 100% feel like that was due to the fact that he was playing somewhat injured throughout a little stretch of the season. He was coming back from injury like in the first 3 games of the season. And then also the fact that defensive coordinators had film on him, so they were ready for him. So he definitely struggled some. Not all of it's on him, but some of it is definitely on him. Like, for example, most recently the Colts game, that's the one that's on everyone's mind. Deshaun just wasn't making accurate throws, and sometimes Deshaun fails to read the blitz. I don't know if it's him just saying, oh, you know what, I'm better than that. I don't need to, even worry about that because I can avoid that. And then boom, he gets sacked. He also needs to do a better job getting rid of the football, not taking so many sacks. Got to learn how to protect himself. I think the protecting himself when he's scrambling or a designed quarterback run, whenever he's doing that, I think he's kind of learned how to protect himself, because as of late I've seen him run out of bounds or just simply slide. But now the next thing he's got to learn how to do is to protect himself in the pocket. He's got to learn how to, just simply throw the ball away or check it down quickly or, simply take off running. Like, protect yourself in the pocket. Like, you shouldn't be taking all these hits. Yes, some are on the offensive line, but some of them are also on Deshaun. Now, in terms of Whedon and Webb, you can't really grade them. They didn't play. But Deshaun, I think he gets a B+ for the season. Quarterback room as a whole, B+. Because of Deshaun, obviously the other guys you can't grade. Now, moving forward, obviously you got to keep Deshaun. He's going to get better. Whedon and Webb, you could keep them, but you could also upgrade them if you get the chance. I think Webb's going to stick around because he does add some special teams value and can somewhat play wide receiver in a pinch. But overall, I was happy with Watson's growth, his progression, but he's got to continue to get better. Now, running back. Lamar Miller, I gave him a B+. I think this was the best Lamar Miller has ever looked with the Texans. And regardless of, there were some games where he was inconsistent, where he clearly didn't see wide open running lanes. And I think that's just who Lamar Miller is. I think people need to understand Lamar Miller isn't a great running back. He never will be. he might not even be a good running back. To me, Lamar Miller is average to above average, but with a good offensive line, can be made look good. And there was games where, the O-line was performing well, and Lamar Miller looked amazing. And that's just how it's going to be with Lamar. I don't think we got to get rid of Lamar. I think he sticks around for this final year. But we can do better than Lamar, but it can also be a lot worse. Now, Lamar, I give him a grade of a B+, because, there was games where he couldn't get much going, but partially, some of that on the O-line. Alfred Blue, unfortunately, Alfred Blue was, the backup running back this season due to the injury to Deontay Foreman. And Blue, similar to Lamar Miller, he did okay in some games and then terrible in other games, but I think Blue was way more inconsistent than Lamar Miller. I think Lamar had a better season than Blue. Blue is just, sometimes he gains 2 yards, sometimes he gains no yards, sometimes he'll bust out with a 20-yard run. That's just kind of who Alfred Blue is. I give Alfred Blue a C+. Foreman, I really can't give Foreman a grade. I just hope that Foreman can come back to what he was supposed to be, because, I was a huge fan of Foreman, but I just don't see Foreman ever being the same again, unfortunately. But hopefully he proves me wrong. And then the last guy, Buddy Howell, he was more of a special teamer, so I can't really grade him. Now, the running back room as a whole, I give it a B. We could go get a running back, a good running back, for example, Le'Veon Bell and free agency would clearly upgrade this running back room, or we could just simply focus on O-line, and then these running backs will perform better. However, I do think it's time to move on from Alfred Blue. I think with the emergence of Buddy Howell on special teams, it kind of makes Alfred Blue on special teams irrelevant. And the only reason we were keeping Blue around was because of that purpose, special teams. And, the Foreman injury happened, so we had to bring him back. So, I do think it's time to move on from Alfred Blue. Wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins. A++++++++++. I mean, what else can you say about DeAndre, dude? He's the best wide receiver in the league. I mean, seriously, that's all I gotta say about him. I feel like I talk about him enough in my videos. He's the best wide receiver in the league. Will Fuller, unfortunately, he got hurt, but when he was playing, how many games did he play? Like 6? I'd give him an A. The guy is a good wide receiver. Unfortunately, just can't stay healthy, man. And I'm not going to hold this past injury against him. I mean, ACL injuries are just straight up freak injuries, accidental injuries. If you're injury prone, you don't suffer an ACL injury. You suffer like other injuries like broken ribs, broken collarbone, and stuff like that. How Will Fuller has suffered in the past. Will Fuller did put on some weight this past offseason. So hopefully moving forward, he don't suffer another freak injury like this and he's able to stay healthy. Kiki, QT, I mean, he was healthy all college. He comes to the NFL and he gets a hamstring injury. And you guys know hamstring injuries for wide receivers, they don't go away all season. They kind of linger all season long. They're an annoying injury. They don't go away till the off season when you actually give it actual months to heal. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was this one time where Andre Johnson was dealing with a hamstring injury, and then he came back next season and he was still dealing with the same hamstring injury. Yeah, hamstrings are tough. I don't think Kiki's injury prone. However, Kiki only played 6 games, only finished 4 of them. However, you saw what Kiki can do. The guy is going to be really good. I'm also giving him an A for the limited time he played. Fuller, Kiki, D-Hop, those 3 receivers, those are your 3 starting wide receivers. And they're very, very, very good. You do not need Antonio Brown, so stop asking if we should get Antonio Brown, because the answer will always be no. Anyways, next person, Demaryius Thomas. You guys know we traded for Demaryius Thomas. Love the trade, love the aggressiveness. But unfortunately, Demaryius Thomas tore his Achilles, and in my opinion, his career is over. Yes, I do know he's saying he wants to come back, but an Achilles injury takes forever to heal. You guys saw it firsthand with Foreman this season. Foreman is like, what, 23? Demaryius Thomas is like 32. So, I don't see him coming back. I think the Texans cut him. However, I give Demaryius Thomas a grade of a B- all season long. Mostly not his fault. You know, he was getting acclimated to the team, to the system, to the playbook. He added another red zone target for Deshaun. I thought that was great. Next guy, DeAndre Carter, also giving him a B. I really like the pickup. I think the guy can legitimately be Kiki's backup. He's a decent slot receiver, but an even better returner. He did have some fumbling issues early on, but it looks like he really kind of fixed them, because the last few games he didn't fumble, as opposed to the first 2 games he fumbled like 3 times. So I am content with DeAndre Carter staying on the team. Next guy, Vincent Smith. It's hard to grade him because he didn't play much, but I mean, it was a wild card game in week 17. The guy didn't know how to line up, and he was on the team since preseason, so what does that tell you? Yeah, I'm giving him a D. Next guy, Joe Webb, A+, because Joe Webb's amazing. Not just kidding. Joe Webb didn't play wide receiver much, so, you know, can't grade him. And then Steven Mitchell Jr., he didn't play much either, so you can't grade him. Next group, tight ends, Ryan Griffin, F. You guys know I hate Ryan Griffin with a passion. Why? I mean, the guy can't pass protect for nothing. There's times where, you know, consistently, where the Texans have a tight end and a running back, a tight end or a running back, sit back and help out in pass protection. Ryan Griffin probably allowed like 6 sacks. The guy is terrible, completely misses blocks. There's other times where he completely looks lost when he's trying to block. Run blocking, it's about the same. He misses blocks. And in the passing game, he's not really all that dangerous. So to me, Ryan Griffin has got to go. Next 2 guys, Jordan Thomas and Jordan Akins, I didn't grade them because, unfortunately, I didn't think they got enough playing time. But when they did play, especially Jordan Thomas, they were very impressive. Akins, he was decent. Thomas, I thought he was good. I think Thomas is the tight end of the future for the Texans. Now, the whole tight end group as a whole, I'm giving it a C because of Ryan Griffin. Ryan Griffin has got to go. He's just got to go. And for the people that say, what if we draft Noah Fant in the first round? No, we don't need him. We need an offensive lineman or a corner in the first round. Anything else is unacceptable. What I do think we need next season is a straight up blocking tight end. A tight end that can run block and pass block. Okay, now for the last group. The offensive line. Julian Davenport. I'm giving him a C. I think he can get better, but this season he was, There was times where he did look pretty good, but most of the time he did look yuck. There's times where he completely misses his block, and that goes for both the run game and the passing game. I do think he's a better pass blocker than run blocker, but I don't see the Texans giving up on him yet. I think they'll continue to develop him, I guess, and see where he goes from there. So I do think, unfortunately, Julian Davenport will be a starter next season. Next guy, Sunil Kilameti. I'm giving him a C as well. Kilameti, he's just a better pass protector than run blocker. Run blocker, he's decent sometimes. Like every now and then he makes a good block in the run game. But he's mostly just a straight up pass protector. And that's about it about him. I give him a C. I think he's easily replaceable. I think he could definitely get worse. I mean, look at Xavier Su'a-Filo. But he could also do better. Next guy, Nick Martin, B+. I think early on Nick Martin started off pretty damn bad. I was starting to get concerned there for a second. But then he kind of, got back to normal and started playing up to his standards. I think Nick Martin is arguably our best offensive lineman. You can argue Zach Fulton. But Nick, he's probably our best run blocker. A pretty good pass protector as well. Then you got Zach Fulton, who I think is straight up our best pass blocker. The guy is just good. He doesn't really allow that many pressures. There is times where he does get beat, obviously, because everybody at some point gets beat. But I do think Nick Martin and Zach Fulton definitely deserve their starting spots next season. Everyone else, in my opinion, isn't safe. That includes the next guy, Kendall Lamb. Kendall Lamb, if you look at the sack numbers, Kendall Lamb didn't allow many sacks. Yeah, that's cool and all. But what about Kendall Lamb? Kendall Lamb gets no push up front in the run game. And then he easily gets pushed back into Deshaun Watson while he's pass protecting. Yeah, he doesn't allow sacks, but when he's constantly on Deshaun Watson's hip, that's an issue. So I don't think Kendall Lamb should come. Well, he shouldn't be starting next season. I do think he should come back as a backup because I do think he's a serviceable backup. Same thing with Sunil Kalametti and Julian Davenport. I think they can be serviceable backups. Davenport can still get better, but Sunil Kalametti and Kendall Lamb, I think that's the best they're going to get. So I do think you have to replace Kendall Lamb, and you have to replace Kalametti maybe, and maybe the guy for Kalametti is already on the roster. Now, the backups, Greg Manx, a C-, similar with Kalametti, inconsistent, hardly ever gets pushed up front in the run game, and then he gets driven back by stronger defensive linemen. That has always been a thing with Greg Manx, but I do think he's a serviceable backup, so he should stay. Now, Martinez Rankin, I'm giving him a D. Martinez Rankin didn't start off good, and to be fair, he got thrown into the fire. The guy didn't practice all offseason because he was dealing with an injury, and then week 1, Shantrell Henderson goes down, and then boom, you throw in Martinez Rankin. You can't expect anyone to be successful like that. So I'm not really going to hold it against him. However, when Martinez Rankin did play at left guard, I loved what I saw in the run game. The guy is a good run blocker, and I think he could develop into a better pass protector as well. He's a left guard, and I do think next season he will be the starting left guard. Again, loved what I saw from him in the run game. Pass game does need to get better, and hopefully he does get better, because look at this. Zach Fulton, Nick Martin, and Martinez Rankin as your interior O-line. That's pretty good. And you'd finally be able to run the ball down the middle, because, in my opinion, Nick Martin can run block pretty well. Zach Fulton, he can somewhat run block, better run blocker than anyone else on the offensive line besides Nick Martin, in my opinion. And then Martinez Rankin, from what I've seen, he can run block pretty well. So you'd finally be able to do the run down the A-gap, and I think that's very important. Now the next two guys, Shantrell Henderson. Shantrell didn't play much. He only played 2 drives against New England. I know some people were saying, what about Shantrell Henderson? You didn't see enough of him to actually count on him. So I'm not going to count on him. I'm not going to grade him. Rod Johnson, same thing. Didn't see him at all, so not going to count on him. O-line as a whole, I'm giving it a C-. Again, Davenport, he can get better, but he struggled. And on the season, he had some, bright spots here and there. Kalametti, inconsistent. Hardly gets pushed up front in the run game. Passing game, holds his ground, but again, like Greg Manx, stronger guys bully him. Nick Martin, good in the run game. Pretty good in the pass game. Zach Fulton, the opposite of Nick Martin. Good in the pass game. Pretty good in the run game. Kendall Lamb, can't get no push up front. Gets pushed back in the pass game. But that's pretty much my grade for the O-line. In my opinion, you got to get a right tackle to replace Kendall Lamb. Maybe you can convince me to keep Julian Davenport and let him develop, I think Martinez Rankin takes the Neil Calamity spot next season. So to me, in my opinion, that will be your starting lineup for next season. Davenport, Rankin, Martin, Fulton, and a rookie or a free agent right tackle. Now, the offensive overall grade, I'm giving them a B because sometimes when they needed points, they would put up points, but then there was other times where they couldn't move the ball or put up points. And people are going to say, it's the play calling, fire Bill O'Brien, it's the play calling. You can say that, but that's 100% lazy. If you're saying it's the play calling, the reason why this team can't put up points, why this team can't move the ball, that is straight up lazy. You're not looking at the game, you're not watching the film, you're not watching the games right. You're just being lazy and going with what, all the other lazy people are saying. Now, I'm not saying the play calling's perfect because obviously I hate the freaking screens to the wide receiver. They never work, and I hate them. And then, the constantly running the ball down the A-gap. I hate that too. But it's not the play calling. If you actually watch the game, look, it starts like this. Okay, look. It starts up front, the O-line. Obviously, we know the O-line can't pretty much do anything consistently because of the certain players we have. Now, in the run game, inconsistent. If you can't get a run game going, you become one-dimensional. So it all falls on Deshaun Watson to win the games. Okay, so it's all on Watson. That's fine, right? Okay. But then they start sending pressure. We already know these offensive linemen, most of them, 3 of them, can't protect well. Okay. And then if you send an extra person, well, then guess what? Obviously, they're not going to be able to block. Deshaun's going to have pressure on his face. And regardless, Deshaun always has Kendall Lamb on his hip for most of the time. But what the Texans do a lot to, protect Deshaun Watson, they have a tight end or a running back stay back and help pass protect. And most of the time, it's a tight end and a running back. So that's 7 people. 7 people blocking for Deshaun Watson in the pass game. How many people does that leave out there running routes? 3. 3 people running routes, 7 people protecting Deshaun Watson, and then of course Deshaun Watson, the quarterback himself. That accounts for another player. That means there is 3 people out there running routes, or sometimes 4 people when they only have 1 player stay back and, help the O-line block. This offensive line simply cannot win one-on-ones besides Nick and Sack. Everyone else, they can't win one-on-ones. So that's why you have to take away certain players to help pass protect. And that just makes it way easier for defenses because that gives them less players to cover. It's that simple. You stop the Texans' run game, and the Texans become one-dimensional, and it all falls on Deshaun Watson being magical. Because we already know the O-line, all 5 of them together, by themselves, can't block. At some point, the O-line will have to man up and block. That's why the O-line has to improve. So we don't have to keep having these players sit back and help block. Because that's straight up taking away weapons from Deshaun Watson easily. And then, of course, a better line equals a better run game. It's that simple. If you have a run game going, it makes things easier. It makes defenses have to respect you. Respect your run game. With the Texans last season, the teams we could run against, why do you think we were able to put up 40-something on Miami? Because we were able to run the ball. Why do you think we beat Tennessee how we beat them? Because we were able to run the ball. What happened when we weren't able to run the ball? We became one-dimensional. Deshaun constantly had pressure on his face. And Deshaun had his worst games. It's not on Deshaun. It's because you can't expect Deshaun Watson to, make all these throws to 3 receivers that are out there being covered by usually 7 players. Now, when it's 4 or 5, especially 5, when it's 5 players out there running routes and there's 7 of them trying to cover them, obviously you have better odds. But currently we're not in position to do that because of the offensive line. So it literally all starts up front. And then, of course, like I said earlier on, Bill O'Brien has part of that blame too. And then even Deshaun Watson has some of that blame as well, because there has been times where Deshaun has had clean pockets or good pockets, and he straight up misses a throw, or straight up doesn't see a guy, or straight up doesn't see a blitz. So it's just a mixture of things. Straight up saying, it's play calling, that's just lazy. It's deeper than that. Look into it. Watch the game film. Watch the games. Pay attention. You can go back and watch them. I'm pretty sure you can see the highlights. And you will see what I mean by that. It starts up front. This O-line's got to get better. It absolutely has to. If the O-line gets better, you guys will see. Deshaun will get better. The offense will get better. The team will get better. And all of a sudden, it's not going to be play calling anymore. Because about, I'd say, 85% of the time, it isn't play calling. It's something else. Saying it's play calling is just plain lazy. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for you guys for today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.